Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 36 of Syncing with ServiceNow. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I'm working from a hotel office space. It looks like Eddie and Mike are both working from their home offices. I don't know how this sounds. I'm using a little cheap set of headphones here, but Mike, Eddie, how are you guys doing?
Doing
Doing all
well.
right. And
And you were clear.
you're coming through pretty clear. So cheap is good, I guess, in this case.
It's cheap is good and technology has come a long way. And you guys, it hadn't been that long ago. You go to a hotel and it was spotty at best. And now, you know, pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
The way I look at that is bandwidth and faster hard drives fix a lot of problems.
Well, ironically, we're talking about employee experience and customer experience is tied into that. And the hotels know that, people need fast internet. So that
Yep.
was a need that was addressed because I can tell you that if a hotel had crappy internet, I'm going somewhere else. I won't be back.
And you know what I find interesting about that, whether it's a hotel or even a country like the United States, the cutting edge guys probably got hurt in the beginning because it all evolved so fast that and hardware had a lot to do with it at the time. Now it's all software driven. You really could have got ahead of the curve and then been behind it almost instantly back in the day when it comes to network connectivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So guys, let me do the commercial real quick. We are a ServiceNow partner. We are a phenomenal ServiceNow partner, and we mean partner as in the true word partner. I was at lunch with a customer a little bit ago, and he would say things, and I would say, well, yeah, we can definitely do that for you, and here's how we're going to do it. And he's like, well, I never had a partner do that for me. I was like, that's because you never worked with a real partner. And well, all right, Eddie, here it comes. You know our investors think of that strategy?
Oh man, what investors? I didn't know we had investors.
We don't have investors, and that's the way we're going to keep it. Because if we had investors, they would be all over us to maximize every penny. And sometimes partnerships don't work that way. Um, so that's the good. Okay, here's the commercial in a nutshell. If you're looking for a true partner around ServiceNow, XenTegra is that partner because we look at the world very different than most other partners. And when it comes to accounts of various sizes and fairly large ones, we can look at it the way ServiceNow needs to look at it too. But of course, they're a publicly traded company. They've got to do what they've got to do. I like to think we're the answer, and we are heavily leaning in and investing to be that answer. Mike and Eddie, you guys brought a blog forward today. We're going to review called Employee Onboarding for Better Engagement and Retention from Day One. That whole employee experience, whether it's how they see the company, how they see the leadership, the first thing they touch and interact with really has a lot to do with how they perceive the company for quite a while and maybe forever. Eddie, I think you chose this one. Why does this matter so much to you?
Well, first of all, you're not sharing if you're sharing the blog. I'm not seeing it. So
I
that's
will.
number one. But I chose it because, I've been around, your goodness, in service now for 11 years since Berlin. It's been a while. So I'm very platform literate. But the thing that I'm most passionate about is the people. How does the platform impact the individuals that are using it? So when I hear about onboarding and you go through all the work to finding a good employee and you want them to be all warm and fuzzy when they start, and too often that's not the case. So this is why I wanted to talk about this, because I lean into the people side.
Leaning into the people side and kind of take this back to the conversation we had a minute ago around bandwidth and internet access, and hotels invested millions into these systems that didn't necessarily get the job done, or they got Moore's law, they got faster and better and cheaper all at the same time. Mike, this thing being a platform and software driven really allows you to invest and know that you can keep up as the platform evolves. You don't have to throw it away and get new stuff.
Yeah, that's what the whole platform as service means. I mean, there are incremental upgrades all the time to the capabilities of the ServiceNow platform. Uh, you know, we're talking today about onboarding, and we'll talk a bit about the fact that ServiceNow itself uses this program, but this is just another evidence of ServiceNow, creating great products and even utilizing it themselves.
Yeah. Let me read you a couple things out of the intro paragraph, and then we'll move on to it. Only 52% of workers felt satisfied with their latest employee onboarding experience. Nearly 40% of the people surveyed found that onboarding was clear. 32% said it was confusing. 22% said it was disorganized. And then the final paragraph here starts off by saying poor onboarding experiences aren't new for HR teams at ServiceNow. We wanted to figure out how to change this. paradigm in a meaningful and effective way, with employee satisfaction rate of 92% in 2003 and a retention rate of 161%. Making progress. Eddie, how many times do you get to have a first impression?
Oh, I think it's about once, I think.
Yeah, that Mike, same for you, right? It's always been once.
Yep, indeed.
And when it comes to the systems you have in place, this is it. And you're probably not overly exposed to it in the recruiting process. You might be, and that'd be number one time to make an impression. But certainly the day you get officially onboarded and they expose you to the real platform that you're going to be working with, that's the time to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be clear, this blog is about ServiceNow as a company and their HR journey and our onboarding journey. But I've been here at XenTegra for about a year. And, not to air too much dirty laundry, but our onboarding wasn't the best. And, right at the time I was brought on board, you made a significant investment in our HR team. And, you put processes in place to make sure that we're getting better. And we are. And HR onboarding is part of our go forward strategy here at XenTegra. Of course, we're ServiceNow users ourselves. So my onboarding, it was bumpy, but I've been doing it a while. So, I was able to unravel what I needed to do. But I think back to how somebody with less experience might react to a less than ideal onboarding experience. And it can, I drank the Kool-Aid out of the gate. So my impression wasn't going to be jaded, but I could understand how somebody at an organization where the onboarding was, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where to go. I don't have access. That can be bumpy.
Yeah,
Now,
especially somebody that's not old.
Now, when a company is small and intimate, onboarding might be something that's natural, organic, and for sure, XenTegra has been able to leverage that over time. But as you get bigger and there's more cogs to play and more people and more abstract, hey, who do I go for this? These onboarding things are that much more important. We, XenTegra ourselves, are actually in midst of implementing ServiceNow HR onboarding because we see the benefit of it, and we are at a point where we can fully benefit from it.
Yeah. There's the conversation around eat your own dog food. Yes, okay, fine. This is truly one of those drink your own champagne things, because if we can get this done for ourselves, which we're in the process of doing, like you guys said, it's beneficial for us as well as our customers to see how we did it. And it's one of those things that just you can't afford for this one not to be good, if not great.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a perfect tie-in to the next section here, the 90 days of ramp up. We do have that first impression. It's like, what does day one look like? Who do I call? Let's make sure we knock that out of the park. But equally as important, what do the next 30, 60, 90 days look like? There's going to be things, there's testing, they've got to go through HR, like sexual harassment, and they've got to do leave, and they've got to do certain things, and they've got to get accreditations in certain areas. And all of that can be mapped out. So the new employee can go to a portal and they can see almost day by day what they need to accomplish. And it takes that stress, because changing jobs, I think, is next to losing a loved one, and I think getting a divorce, I think, is like changing jobs is like number 3 under the most stressful things you can do. So if they can understand what their day-to-day looks like and remove some of that stress, that's only good for the company and the employee.
I would probably throw into that too. We're talking about a whole new generation of people that are half the lifespan or maybe less than half the lifespan of my life. They've spent their entire life, if they needed a solution or a service, they typically had it up and going in a matter of minutes because things were provisioned, from the cloud as a service. They have no idea what, submitting a ticket or maybe even filling out a paper form looks like, it feels like.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. And I love the last part of this 90-day ramp up is the performance feedback. You're not just working in a vacuum. So you're getting, things are submitted to your managers and there's areas for feedback there. Again, it's just about, getting people on board with your mission, your idea, the purpose. Why are we in business? And if you could take all the nonsense away and all the questions from onboarding and get people into your organization's purpose without all the noise, I think that's only good for the company.
Yeah. Mike, anything else to add to this first section?
Um, you know, I would say that this article focuses quite a bit on day one, and, where day zero would be, ahead of your hire, and day one is the first day or the like. There's also the concept of day two. Hey, we've hired you initially, but what then? How does what happens after the 90 days? And that sometimes that's referred to as day two. And the idea is, you can use the HR system to have those other experiences. Where do I go to have request leave? Where do I go to make a deposit on 401k or what have you? And so this HRSD product absolutely goes even above and beyond what we're going to be talking about here.
So Mike, I'll come back to you for this next section, smooth onboarding for new hires. What's the point they're trying to get across for this?
Well, I mean, we just talked a little bit about the fact that we want the person to be clear on where and what they're supposed to be doing. But I had a job with AT&T, my first job out of college, and then I was outsourced to CSC, and we had to use like some antiquated system for email. And I got so frustrated. Frankly, that was one of the reasons I left. It was just a bad tool. And if you can bring on a new person and show them that you have your act together, that there are tools that are readily available, not only do you know what to do, but you know where to go, and the tool is good,
Yeah,
you're gonna have a better experience.
and based on this section they're showing here, it's not only where do I find my laptop, where's my desk at, blah blah blah, how do I request leave. Some of this is just immersing the person into the company culture. I could see that being extremely beneficial.
Yeah. And that was the word I was fishing for a minute ago. I couldn't, the culture, we want to get them, to drink the culture Kool-Aid as soon as we can. And, we're talking about the employee experience here, but we can't, talk about onboarding without addressing the HR experience as well. So on average, there's about 22 separate tasks that have to take place when you onboard a new employee. Security badge, drug screening, got to set up an office, get them a cell phone, and a dozen other things. Before something like ServiceNow, that HR person would literally be sitting in their chairs, calling people, sending emails, working off a spreadsheet, have to follow up with procurement for their laptop and facilities for the office, and they would have no idea. It was exhausting. Now they can enter all their information in their Active Directory, click a button, and all of these tasks get sent out with associated SLAs. There's a timeline that these things have to be done. And some of these tasks can be cascading. As one is done, the next one is created automatically. It really takes a lot of burden off the HR person to make sure that all of those I's get dotted, to make sure that, again, that experience for the employee is seamless.
And I think that goes to this section here. And so I think Eddie kind of covered it, but a single system for engagement, Mike, workflows included, automation included. Heck, let me look. The acronym AI has got to be in here somewhere. I can't imagine it wouldn't be. Yeah, that single system piece, it's pivotal to this whole thing working, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As Eddie mentioned, used to be very, very manual, and now maybe there's still some manual tasks, but at least that it's been assigned to you. Hey, I got a task assigned to me. I get notification. I can go into ServiceNow and see what's on my plate. And then when you could have an SLA, you could have reminders. And when I finish my task, which is in a serial with other things, then the next thing happens automatically rather than waiting for the person in HR to kick off the next step.
Mike,
Yeah, and also a new employee also doesn't know all the tools that an organization uses. So if they're going to ServiceNow for their onboarding task and something's wrong with their laptop, they go to ServiceNow to create an incident. They don't know if they need to go to Teams or Slack or where the documents are in OneDrive. They don't know that yet. So keeping them in a single platform for the kickoff is always smart.
That's a good point. And all the employees that have been around a while, they have this built-in thing where they know where things are, but they can't put themselves in the shoes of new people who really have no idea. But if someone designs it properly, and takes that into consideration, it really should elevate that new employee experience.
Yeah, 100%.
I had a situation today where someone said to me, "Hey, we went here, we did this," and I'm like, how do they remember all that? And then I had to put myself in my shoes for a second. First time I'd ever been there, I was just taking it all in. They've been there 20 times. They remember going to these places because they've been so many times, and it's just next second nature to them. But to me, it was a whole new experience. I barely knew what town I was in, much less, what bar or restaurant I went to in what order.
Right, right, right. And, this next section about designing a complete journey, of course, ServiceNow is an end-to-end platform. It kind of sits across, and, it wouldn't goes without saying that, ServiceNow is an integration platform. So we're not going to replace Workday in HR. We're going to incorporate Workday into HR and then use ServiceNow as a platform of truth. But this complete journey, I love the first sentence about employee retention and morale. And Mike just commented that he was fed up and he left an organization because they were so disparate in their platforms and tools. So that employee retention, and equally as important, we want to keep our people, but we also want them to have a very high morale. We want them to be excited about coming to work. And if we can make their work better, then it's only good for us. They're going to be more productive employees.
I can tell you from leading a company perspective, it's hard enough to keep morale up by, putting on a brave face and being excited every day. There's days when that's not as easy. If the systems in place are having a negative impact on that motion, then, you take one or maybe both, and now you've got a double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, and you being the CEO, you're putting things in places. I mean, we're constantly changing. We have to embrace change and look forward to it. But yeah, there's areas where we're constantly getting better to make sure that, our team, our sales team, and our rest of our engineers are working in an environment. Mike and his team are building out, our SPM right now. We're running all of our projects through ServiceNow Strategic Portfolio Management because it's natural and it's easy and it's intuitive. So we're giving our delivery team the tools they need, specifically our architects and our engagement managers, platforms and where they can do their job efficiently. And I can tell you that that was one of the first questions I asked my boss before I came on board here at XenTegra. Are we using ServiceNow? The answer was yes. That is a deal breaker for me. I don't want to work somewhere that doesn't utilize ServiceNow.
Same for me. I asked that same question.
Hey, Mike, so this section is called Designing a Complete Journey. Have you seen anyone actually do this end to end the way you think it should be done?
I think there's always room for growth. I mean, ServiceNow is doing it this whole journey, trying to use ServiceNow for all the tools. My last partner that I was at, they used ServiceNow, intimately for their trouble tickets, for development, for project management. However, even my last partner was actually because of some of the sales, they're actually taking the sales portion out of ServiceNow because the rest of the organization, the non-ServiceNow part of the organization, was familiar with something else. So I think there's always going to be some exceptions for this. There are some great tools like Salesforce that have strengths, and ServiceNow has strengths, and there's some different ways to look at things. But overall, I think it's a fantastic platform. Have I ever seen somebody who fully utilizes it? Probably not. But that's okay.
Well, what I
As long as
love about that
progress.
conversation is twofold. One, you get the opportunity to use the technology yourself and then apply it to customers. So you're learning and you're bringing that information to them. If you use, eat your own dog food, drink your own champagne. In addition to that, the platform is, like you said, limitless. And you said, yes, we've done everything we possibly can. Well, first of all, it's not true. And second of all, that's going to change in the next release. Or the next identified use case may be even sooner and faster, likely.
Yep.
All right, so this whole concept comes down to making sure employees have a better experience from day one and throughout their entire journey. This next section here talks about investing in employees. Eddie, you brought this blog. That's ultimately what this is, isn't it?
It really is, and there's a phrase that I say probably way too often that says, technology is cheap, people are expensive. And so we go through all the work to get these rock star people to come on board and share their talents with our customers. Why would we not invest in them to make sure that we give them the tools they need to be successful and the tools they need to keep that morale high? I mean, if you get a top tier architect on your team and they're disenchanted with the organization, or they're frustrated because they can't find data or they don't know what to do next, we just did ourselves and that architect a disservice. So why not invest in the employees to give them the environment to do their work?
Right. And it's not just the perception of the person. Perception of the person absolutely is important. But even if they had a few different tools and they knew where to go, just the switching around and the loss of contextualized data and how things link together. Um, it- ServiceNow and the HRSD product all make your business better. It makes people more productive, not just their perception of it.
And guys, what kind of leadership buy-in does this require? I mean, how far do you have to take it to get the value of it? Not saying that some organizations won't take it all away, but how far do you have to go down this path to warrant the product and what it costs and your investment into setting it up? Do you have to be all in from a leader perspective, or can you do it over time?
You can incrementally improve for sure. You could have, hey, let's deploy this, let's see the value, and then echo that back to leadership to say, hey, this is what we were given as an objective. These are the metrics that we defined in order to see that we would be successful after implementation. And now we're successful. This is great. Maybe we should start utilizing in other areas of the business. Legal service delivery, HRSD, like we're talking about here, enterprise asset management. That being said, as with any project, having leadership buy-in, that access to power, the people that can make the decisions is always fundamentally important.
Yeah, and it always starts with a business case. If I can't make a business case for implementing a specific module of ServiceNow, then the conversation stops. It just does. We're not going to implement something or even make a suggestion that an implementation happen unless there's value. There's going to be increased productivity. There's going to be, that's part of the organizational change mentality. Are we doing something that's good for your people? Are they going to become more productive? Then yes, and productivity equals cash. So yeah, I mean, this specifically, yeah, the HR individuals are going to be far more productive because they don't have to chase their tails all day. The employee retention, your attrition rate across the board is going to be lower when you have something like this, because a lot of folks leave in those first 90 days. We're going to make sure they stay. So yeah, there's generally a built-in business case for something like onboarding.
Well, as I'm talking, as you're saying that, I'm going back to the first paragraph where they have the numbers, 50% of the workers not satisfied, 40% found onboarding unclear, 32% said it was confusing. These are all no-brainers. You can argue, ServiceNow for this or that may not make sense. Investing in a platform like this may or may not make sense. You could, I guess, maybe make those arguments, but when it comes to the human capital that you're investing in with your people, I guess that one is impossible to argue that putting something in place like this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? It's besides all of that, it's just really cool. I mean, it's a cool UI. It's easy just to go somewhere. The layout, it's very predictive. It just it's intuitive. As a new employee, it's almost like you go into an Amazon-like experience. It's just very easily laid out. You can download things. There's timelines.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. And again, since we talked about this at the beginning, I lean into the people side. And if I can make somebody, excited about their next day versus stressed out about their next day, that's a win. That means I feel like I've done my job if I can create that environment.
Yeah, I think Mary, I think it's Holm who wrote this article, but she could have written the whole article and just said exactly that. Employee onboarding for better engagement and retention from day one because it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
then
a
all the
lot.
other stuff we talked about. Mike, any parting words?
Um, I would go back to what you said, like, is anybody doing this fully? And perhaps not, but that's only opportunity. And going back to the business case and the justification, yes, this is fantastic. And yes, I've actually worked with customers who started off with HRSD. But if you're not quite sure about HRSD, still talk to us about maybe other opportunities where we could start off and prove the benefit of the platform and then grow into HRSD.
Yeah. Hey, I want to go back to Eddie's comments real quick. I kind of trivialized what he said, but the truth is, some of the stuff we talked about is like table stakes for what you need to do to make sure your employees don't have a negative impression of you. But if you want to take that to another level, a positive impression of you would be exactly what Eddie was talking about. It's cooler to do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's kind of like this is how we judge our customers. If on a scale of 1 to 10, anything less than a 9 to us is a failure.
Yeah.
So if you think about it from an employee, if an employee says on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your onboarding? It was a 5, then that's a failure. We don't want middle of the road. We want every employee to say onboarding was a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
The director of modern applications at XenTegra is a 10. The guy's a rock star. So sorry.
I hope
That
he's
was
not
funny.
listening to this one.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I appreciate
that comment was made for a specific person listening to this.
Yeah. Guys, I appreciate the time having this discussion. I'm excited to get this fully implemented at XenTegra. I say fully, there's no such thing as fully. I'm excited to get the phase that we're in implemented so we can start using the technology ourselves and having happier, more engaged employees.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.